Welcome to the Rich Mind Podcast.
One thing that happens to me, maybe it happens to you, is, I'll get a song stuck in my head. We had a conversation a few episodes back, like a song will pop in my head and I just can't get it out of my head. Well, also something that happens a lot is that words will just pop in my mind as well. And I've really started to sit with that, like allow that to happen. And that's the word that we want to talk about today is allow. The word allow has really been coming up and showing up in my life over the last 2 or 3 weeks. And I presented that as an idea to Greg is to have a little bit of a discussion about it. I wanted him to kind of help me kind of pull it apart, dig a little deeper. But the word allow versus forcing things to happen. So where this is coming from is a big fan, obviously, the personal development. I'm always trying to study. I'm actually restudying different things all the time. And I'm actually going through a Bob Proctor program. And he talks about dis-ease. If your body is at dis-ease or not at ease, then that's where illness comes from. So that can be related to, your health. That can be the same way with your thoughts and your thinking and your results. So the idea that I had, or the word, or where the word comes from with allow, is I've kind of started having to thinking, what if I was able to just allow my life to happen versus trying to feel like I'm forcing it to happen? I feel like over the last few years, let's just say, I've been trying to really, it's that saying, shove a round hole or round peg through a square hole or something like that, or square peg through a round hole. Maybe that's what it is. Is that what it is, Greg?
Yeah, either way works.
Either way. But anyways, yeah, it doesn't work. So I'm trying to think of easier ways to have things kind of just manifest in my life. So it's not that I don't think that action is required because I know that action is required. But what if I were to allow the different thoughts to come into my mind, and then once they did, I didn't feel like I was forcing them to happen? Once again, that's the discussion I wanted to have here today. Any thoughts on that, Greg, as far as the allowing piece? Any questions that you might even have, to start this off?
Yeah, this was a word that you brought to me. And, honestly, I haven't thought about this word probably in a while. So this is going to be a fun conversation for sure. But the word control kind of comes in my head as well, as far as like forcing things to happen. There's a sense of control or loss of control if you're just going to allow things to unfold. And that could be good, that could be bad. Just depends on what it is and how you see it. But I think control is going to be another word that is going to be part of this conversation today, too.
Well, we talked, I think it was an episode or two ago when we talked about the, connecting the dots backwards as far as that Steve Jobs quote. And I think that that's where also part of this allowing came to my mind, was that as I look back on my life, I can see how the pieces have fallen into place. I can see where I'm at today, the discussion that we're having today, the experiences that I'm having, today, this week, which then allows me, and you'll probably hear me say that a lot today, which then allows me then to almost like feel confident moving into my tomorrows, into, like I said, this conversation. We don't know where it's going to go, but I'm confident that it's going to lead into something great. Same thing with the experiences that I have later on this week, whether it's phone calls, whether it's the experiences with my family, whatever is going on. I don't feel like I need to force anything to happen. I refer back to my retail days a lot. And I felt like I was forcing a lot of the things that was going on, whether it was the work that I was doing. I had to force myself to get up at a certain time. I had to force myself to get dressed to go to work every day in a way that I just didn't necessarily feel like it was good. It wasn't easy. So maybe that's not the right word. It wasn't, my body and my attitude and all that just wasn't at ease. I was always in tension all the time, which would give me stress headaches. A lot of times I was in anxiety, even small doubts or bouts of depression at sometimes. I just didn't ever felt confident and good about myself when I was forcing myself to do something that was not in my best interest for myself or more for my family. We just actually came back from a small family reunion, and it's interesting to sit and listen to other folks have discussions about memories. And one thing that when I'm listening to my wife, she's talking about this time frame back then. So this was a long time ago. It's probably closer to 20 years ago. So my kids are 28, 26, and 24. So, probably 10 to 6 years old is what they were back then, is the time frame I'm referring to. And she would always talk about life, what would life was like for them, but I wasn't around. And I think I sit with that all the time about how I was so not happy with where I was in that moment, right? In that job that I had. And I get it. I had responsibilities, I had bills to pay. As I look back, I'm not exactly sure what I would have done differently 100% other than maybe look for something different to do, right? And that's kind of what I ended up doing when I left and went to Coca-Cola. That helped a lot, which then allowed me then to step into becoming who I am today. But back then, I was forcing life to happen. And because I was forcing it to happen, number one, I was not happy personally, miserable. My family wasn't happy. I wasn't with them. So there are so many memories that she discussed about them, about what they used to do, that I was just never around. I can remember vividly a few times where they would be leaving to go to a family function. Family, it could have been Thanksgiving, or I mean, think of a normal family function. I had to go to work. And it was like, I can remember multiple times where that was just make me almost mad. I mean,
Hmm.
almost mad at myself that I was once again, allowing that to happen. So as I've tried to get better at my personal development, and then obviously trying to improve my own personal life, once again, this word allow has come up over the last couple of weeks a lot of times. And I'm trying to sit with, how do I do that while still achieving? Because I think that once again, we still need to take action. We still need to keep stepping into who we're trying to become, but allowing that to happen versus forcing it to action. Yeah. Any those stories any that resonate with you, Greg?
Yeah, the one thing that I was going to relate that to is, forcing life to happen. I know a lot of people, I've done this myself where people tell you, by the age 25 or 30, you quote unquote should be married, you should have kids, and that's somebody else's timeline. So you're basically trying to force life to happen on somebody else's timeline, and if that's not your timeline, you're going to cause yourself a lot of stress. If you're a people pleaser, you might actually take that into consideration of, well, yeah, maybe I should be married by the time I'm 30. Or, like you're saying, allowing life to unfold, that might mean that you never get married or you get married at 40. So it just depends on, yeah, that's the one example that I kind of drew to because I know, when I was really trying to find a girlfriend or, a wife, that kind of thing, I was definitely forcing it a lot of the time. And when you force it, just like in sales, people know when you're forcing it, when you're desperate, or when you're really trying to make something happen, as opposed to just letting things happen. And if it works out with this girl, great. If it doesn't, cool, just go with the flow. So that was my example of going back to, my 20s and 30s of timelines, and just also from, dating and not really putting that pressure on, is this girl the one? Just, let it happen and let it unfold. And if it is, then great. If it's not, then keep moving.
You used a word there that I was going to bring up, which was flow. And that's another word along with this allow, that if you're not in flow, if you're not there again, if things aren't at ease, or if you're not kind of moving at ease, meaning it's not. So that's what I'm trying to. Can you think of a better way to explain that as far as the at ease part, Greg? Am I explaining that correctly? Because so when I say easy, I almost think that that's a negative because it's not easy. Life isn't easy. That's not what I'm trying to portray here. But at the same time, it's like it needs to be like a flow. Like you need to feel like you're in flow with whatever it is that's going on in your life. One thing that my wife and I say a lot, and sometimes I need to get a reminder from her all the time, is that life is happening for you. It's not happening against you. And so even perceived negative things in the moment can actually turn out to be a good thing if you allow it to be that way. But as far as that easy ease, can you think of a better way to describe that, Greg, at all? Is that even, am I doing well with that?
No, I mean, you're doing well with it. I think another way I would kind of think about it is maybe like a calm or like a relaxed state, even though you're still, like we're talking about, we're still achieving goals and moving the needle forward, but you're just doing it in a different way where you don't really care about the outcome necessarily because you know the outcome is going to come eventually. With the dating example, if you're, dating this one person and you really want it to work and you're really just, you act a little bit differently when you're forcing life to happen as opposed to allowing it. Because if you're calm and you're dating this person and you're relaxed, you're in that flow of, well, if this doesn't work out, there's going to be another girl right behind her. And when I find the right one, it's going to stick. I don't know if that helps you a little bit, but if calm and relaxation kind of came to my mind.
Yeah, it does. And it actually reminds me of even just going through the process of today of coming up with the topics that we're going to have this episode and the next. So all morning long, I was forcing myself. I was not stressing, but I was giving a lot of thought of what did I want to bring to the podcast today? What topic, what discussion? And for hours, I could not come up with anything, or at least I didn't come up with anything that felt good, that felt at ease, or felt flow. It felt, yeah, it just felt good. But then once, you and I were texting back and forth, and I was like, well, I'm just going to relax a little bit. And when I do, and when I did, I should say, that's when the ideas came to me. And that's when I shared those with you. Now, I believe, based on the discussion we're having today and everything else that I'm trying to do, that's where there again, letting go a little bit, relaxing, kind of just stepping into it, allowing it to be a little bit more easy, understanding that we had a time frame, meaning we had a goal. We had a goal at showing up at this time and obviously producing this podcast. So we had a deadline, but I didn't need to force it as much as I was. Does that ring a bell? I mean, obviously you were both going through that today. Does that sound like very similar as far as an idea, as far as that same, like, with that dating idea too?
Yeah, it definitely does. And I did the same thing this morning with topics. I was really thinking, trying to brainstorm of what haven't we talked about in a while or what would be a good topic. And like you said, forcing it to happen, sometimes it works, but sometimes it really doesn't. And in this case, with the topics of the podcast and everything, we kind of talked about it before we hit record here, and we just kind of just went back and forth a little bit. And we said, yeah, these sound right. Let's just go with these. But nothing was forced. Sometimes in the past where we're not feeling a topic, we just won't record.
Yeah,
So
we've done that multiple times, haven't we? Yeah, we'll hop on, we'll have a scheduled
Mhm.
time, and it's like, yeah, I'm just not quite feeling it today. And instead of making it or forcing it into something that probably wasn't going to turn out well, yeah, we'll just pass on it for the day. That's right.
Yeah, so that's just another area or an example of an area of life where that can happen, where it's hitting record, and if you're not feeling it, or if something feels off, or you're pressing for it, then it's going to show in the podcast episode. So yeah, I like this topic. This is a really fun topic, actually.
So then I would just kind of push that, or not push it back on you, as far as reflect that back to you listening to us today, folks. It's like, where in your life are you finding a lot of resistance? And I think that that's probably where this allowance needs to begin. So whether it's a job, whether it's a family member or a friendship, or even within yourself, where is it that you're finding and running up against some of this resistance? And that's where, once again, I'm trying to use this word allow to just calm myself, to realize that it's all going to work out the way it's supposed to in the end. I need and I want to have certain things that happen for goals or whatever we're trying to achieve in our life, but I don't necessarily need to go crazy. Do, it's amazing, the hustle culture. I think you even brought that up.
hmm
As far as, like, nowadays it's like, if you're not, waking up at 3 a.m. and your eyes are bleeding and you're, you're killing yourself, then you're not succeeding. And part of that, and I think maybe it depends on maybe the time of the process for yourself too, right? There might be times to do that, but to think that that's the way to success, like 24/7, 365, that's how you're going to live. That might work for some folks. There's some people that are in certain areas of line of work that might be required of them. For me, my body and the way I think and the way I try to achieve and get things done, my body does not function and my mind does not function when I'm not in this easy mode. It's like that Staples commercial, hit that easy button. And so when I say easy, once again, I'm not proclaiming that it's going to be simple, but it could be. Who knows? You never know. But just stepping into it and allowing it to happen. That's one thing. I had that discussion a lot with my son too. He, like you just said, and this probably comes from his mother and I. So I raise my hand. It's more probably at fault of myself because I put expectations on him that he feels like he always has to step into or try to achieve a certain thing at a certain level at a certain time frame in his life, when in reality I keep telling him, son, you're doing great, you are exactly where you need to be at the right moment. And once again, just keep allowing things to happen. Now continue to work hard, do your best, at everything that you're trying to do. And if you do that consistently, the right things are going to show up, the right opportunities are going to show up, the right thoughts are going to show up. And then once you step into them, that's when you're going to get the better, different results that you're looking for. And I think that if he can just continue to step into that, that's what I'm trying to encourage him to do. And that's what I'm trying to encourage myself. And then you listening to us here today also is to just allow those things to happen. And once you do, better, bigger things are going to show up that you might not even be aware of, that could be actually be positives for you moving forward. And that's the amazing part, right? There again, looking backwards, you're going to be like, wow, it's amazing how this person or that thought or this idea or this action actually led to whatever result down the road that you might not even had an idea that it was even on that way or on your way towards that, which is also super fun.
So what do you think about this as far as if this relates to this topic? Because I've been thinking about this lately and talking to a friend about this, about decisions. And he kind of pointed out to me that I'm always looking for the right or wrong decision to make. And his point of view was it's just a decision. Make a decision and go, as opposed to always trying to find the right decision, which would probably be more like forcing life to happen, as opposed to him saying, it's just a decision, make a decision, and then allow life to unfold. Is there a parallel there or?
I think so. So one thing I've learned in my process is that, and I think I want to give credit, I think this is more of a David Nagel thing. He's taught me this, is that it's not, there isn't right, there isn't wrong. Everything just is. And so, yes. So one thing that I've struggled with my entire life is I try to attach meaning to those decisions. I try to, think out step 5, 6, 7, 10, where I'm headed, where if I make this decision where it's going to lead to, which will then lead, put me into some kind of a chaos, which will keep me from taking action. So it doesn't allow that life to unfold. I do that all the time. So yes, I believe, to answer your question, that making the decision and not putting that label of right or wrong, that it just is. There's just a decision. And then you just step into it, because then the next decision, the next opportunity to make a new decision is going to show up right after that. That's another thing that David has taught me as well, that saying yes or saying no, one or the other, you just make the decision. Once again, it's not right or wrong. But as soon as you make that decision, the next step for you to take will then begin to show itself. It might be immediate. It might be in the next day or two. It doesn't, there's no exact time frame. But is that helpful? Does that go along with what you're talking about? Yeah, I've heard that, and I've tried to implement those things in my life as well.
Yeah, no, I think that was a good explanation, because sometimes I feel like, yeah, I'm looking for that right answer or wrong answer or decision, I should say. And yeah, it's just allowing life to unfold exactly what we're talking about. Sometimes easier said than done if it's a big decision in your life, but at the end of the day, yeah, it's just a decision. And it's kind of going down that decision tree of, if you do this, then you end up here, then you do this and you end up there. I guess it's just not looking back and thinking, well, what if I did this or what if I did that? And that's a whole nother episode with, looking back and regret and everything.
No, 100%. So yes, meaning we've had in my family, right? My wife and I've in the last few episodes, we've talked about how I've had different opportunities show up, and we've had some big decisions to make. And the way I've made those decisions was I was going basically off of how I felt. So once again, it goes back to this ease, right? This ease within myself. When I would think through what life would be like after whichever decision, whether it's go forward or not, trying to make that decision. When I was thinking through, okay, taking this next step was going to create what for myself. And I kept coming back to a negative, very bad feeling within me. So it's like that gut reaction, that gut feeling that I kept having, which led me then to start questioning whether or not that was the right decision to make. Mm-hmm. Now, that one decision, I mean, when you think about it, it completely changed the trajectory of my life, mm-hmm. my family's life. Who knows where that would have gone, whether I said yes, whether I said no. So sometimes it's a little difficult to figure that out going down the road or going down the path. But that's one thing that I've done. Now, I don't know if that's, so there, I don't want to put a label on it, right or wrong. I don't know if that's the proper way of doing it. That's just what's been best for me. I will tell you that when I've allowed the negativity to take more control over my decisions, then my answers are usually no, which once again has usually kept me playing small. So I'm trying to allow myself to believe and to think that even though it might be a challenging decision, that it actually could work out to be a positive outcome. But that's not been my experience in the past. So that's where I'm struggling with that literally all the time. So that's where this allow word really has come into my life here lately.
I think this kind of relates to acceptance too, which we've talked about in the past couple of months here on the podcast. Once you make that decision, you have to accept that's the road that I'm going down. It's really hard to not look at the other road or the other decision that you could have made. Like you said, if you look back in your past, one big decision or even one small decision could change the direction of your life completely. So it is easy to get, caught up in, well, what if I did this right? If I bought this property, if I didn't sell this one, whatever the situation is, it's just really acceptance of, well, I made that decision at that time with all the information that I had, and you can't go back and change it. Easier said than done. I get caught up in this quite a bit sometimes, but it's something that we literally can't change. So it's really doesn't benefit us to ruminate about it.
So living in the past or living in the future. We've had
Hmm.
that discussion many times. The depression piece, living in the past, worrying about what you could have done, what you should have done, the anxiety, worrying about a future that doesn't exist yet. It just kind of straddling the two, trying to live in the present, live in the moment, and just making the best of what you can in this moment, allowing it to come forth and allowing it to happen, allowing to have the thoughts. As I mentioned, there again, coming up with the ideas, even for these episodes today, I allowed those to happen. Whether they're good or not, I guess you're gonna to let us know here at some point. You can leave us some feedback, but at the same time, yeah, allow it to happen. I think I was talking about just having this family reunion, and that was one thing that I have been thinking about a lot lately. Is that just think about past generations. I'm talking about like grandparents, and obviously I didn't meet my great grandparents, but I just think about the decisions they made back then has led to me being here literally today. And that when I think about that, I just get not overwhelmed, but I'm almost in awe to think that, wow, had they made the decision, well, it was like, okay, for example, my aunt, I've shared multiple times, my mom's already passed, but my aunt was having a discussion with me yesterday about my mom and how this used to be dating this other guy in high school. And how that she remembers the day when she realized and my aunt went to my mom and told her something about the guy that made her break up with this gentleman, that's when she met my father. And I'm thinking, wow. I mean, you see what I'm saying? You see where I'm going with that? It's like had that not transpired in that way, obviously you and I wouldn't be having this discussion today. So then think back through all of the different things that are going on in our lives. And then we put so much pressure into focusing and forcing our life to happen, forcing it to do this, forcing it to do that, thinking that we know better, that we know what the right thing is to have happen out there. When in reality, and this is just my opinion, maybe we don't. Maybe we don't know what should happen. We don't know what needs to happen. Maybe there's a bigger plan that we just don't have any piece of or any knowledge of. And all we can do is just make the best decisions that we can, allowing different things to flow through us with our ideas, with our emotions, with our decisions, and then putting them into place one piece at a time, the best that we can in those moments. Like you said, and then not looking backwards so much. It's like learning from the past, but not dwelling in the past.
Mhm.
I like you just said, I can think back of some different decisions moving forward and through it, whether it was my career or even with my family, that as I mentioned, I had a little bit of regret not being there for my family. But had I not done that, gone through that experience for myself, I wouldn't be wanting like desperately to be with my family like today. The time I get to spend with my family or even with my grandson Rowan, I've got I don't know if I've announced this yet, but I've got a granddaughter on the way as well. She'll be here late October, early November. And I just cannot wait to spend that time with that next generation of Wilsons. And I believe it's because of the decisions I had back then, feeling like I was forcing myself to show up and do things that I was really not liking at all, has allowed me then to step into this with like joy. I mean, I look forward to it all the time, and it's great. So that would be that's kind of where I want to leave everybody with here today is that where are you not allowing life to happen, and where are you forcing it to happen? And is it even the force? Is it coming from outside influences? Is it coming from your parents? Is it coming from society in general? Is it coming from school? I mean, where is that force? Where are you feeling like you should be at a certain level? Or where do you feel like you should be pushing forward towards something that maybe isn't in resonant with you? It isn't what you want to be. What is it that you truly want? And then allowing that to happen. That's what I'm trying to work with all the time, every day. It's been a challenge, but it's also been rewarding because it's there again. It just feels good. It feels good. I've never really been happy in life, joyful, happy, right? And I can use those words today more so than I've ever had in the past. And a lot of it becomes or has become because of, like I said, allowing these things in my life to happen and to appreciate them. My journaling process. I love doing that. These conversations with you, Greg, I just love doing them and just allowing them to happen for sure.
So I think the last thing that I would say is it might not be allowing life to unfold versus forcing life to happen. It could be a combination of the two, where you kind of, you blend them a little bit, or in one area of your life, you might allow things to happen more. Other areas, you might have to force a few things. So what we're talking about here is not very static. It should be very fluid, and it's going to be different for everybody too. But just want to keep that in mind that it's not like 100% one way or the other. You can mix and match a little bit.
So I'll just go back to the word flow. And like you said, I'll leave that with you folks who are listening to us today. Is that where in your life do you feel like you're at ease? Where do you feel like you're in flow? There are times, for example, maybe getting to the gym or working out or doing something that you should do, but maybe you don't necessarily want to do. Maybe it's just habit stacking the proper habits to get where you feel like you are in flow. Figure that out for yourself. Think through that. Where is it in your life where you're pushing up, through some of that resistance? And it is a back and forth. You're going to have some areas of your life where you feel like you're really in flow, and then others that you may not be. And then just going back and forth and allowing those things to be okay, or allowing yourself to be okay with those things that are going on in your life. That would be my encouragement for you here today. So hopefully you found this episode valuable. This is just, once again, these are the things and the ideas that are going on in my mind in real time. I'm trying to share as many real life stories that I possibly can. I know Greg is doing that as well. And then this back and forth, it really helps me kind of flesh out the ideas that I've got in my mind. And it's always been a lot of fun to do that. And hopefully you're finding value in that message. If you wouldn't mind going out to the podcast platform of your choice and leaving us a review and letting us know what your thoughts are with the podcast and what your the last episodes have been, we would greatly appreciate that as well. And share this with your family and friends. We're just trying to help as many people as we possibly can think through the challenges of life. As I mentioned at the very beginning, I'm not proclaiming that life is easy, because yes, it's very challenging, but where can we make it more in flow? And I believe that if you can find that for yourself and allow things to happen for yourself, understanding that this future that's coming to you is exactly the way it's supposed to be for future generations, that you may not comprehend it in this moment, but when we look back on it someday in the future, it'll be exactly what has needed to happen at that time. So go out there, focus on being great, and join us back here on the next episode of the Rich Mind Podcast. We appreciate your time and attention today, and we'll look forward to bringing back the next episode again very soon. Until then, folks, bye now.
Thank you for joining us today on the Rich Mind Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like and share it with someone you know. Also, don't forget to subscribe on your favorite platform and never miss an episode. One last thing, don't ever forget that your mind is the first place where wealth is created. Keep dreaming big, take action, and together, let's build wealth, a legacy, and a life we love.